Hi, everyone, and welcome to this conversation. My name is Véronique Gauthier. I'm a yoga teacher and breathwork facilitator and the co-founder of Breath at Work together with Celine.
So my name is Celine Fontaine. I am an executive coach. I also do a lot of leadership development, and I co-founded, as Veronique just said, co-founded Breath at Work with Veronique.
And today we are going to have a chat with Yasmin. And Yasmin is a founder of Heathly HR. So if you can just say a couple of words about yourself, Yasmin.
Hello, nice to be here. So I'm the founder of Healthy HR. We specialise in HR for businesses across the UK with an emphasis on doing good HR practices right in a proactive way, but then with an element of well-being, mindset, coaching, emotional regulation, just to really keep the focus on creating a really healthy workforce, because there are so many benefits of doing it like that. And I'm sure we'll kind of dive into that.
Yeah. And why this emphasis on healthy HR? Why not HR?
It's a very good question. It comes back to my own personal experience. When I founded Healthy HR, I was still working in the corporate world and I'd been on my own health journey. I'd gone from significantly overweight. I'd lost a lot of weight. I'd done a lot of exercise, had a really rigid diet. And that is the point where I created this company, Healthy HR, because I knew from my own personal experience, when I was healthy and when I was fit and slimmer and more active, the impact it had on not only my personal life, but my work life was huge. And that's when I created the brand. Interestingly, though, about a year later, I became really unwell. I actually eventually ended up being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I suddenly went, hang on a minute, I'm a fraud. I've got a business called Healthy HR and I am not very healthy myself. I thought I was, and I had been on the journey. So then I had to really go on another journey within the journey of really dig deep and look after myself as a whole being, not just from a physical point of view. And I've been on that journey ever since. So although my business started from one point of health, it's very much now a very holistic way of looking at things. I'm kind of at the point now where I want to teach others in the workplace everything that I've learned and everything that I've got wrong, so they don't make the same mistakes that I have in the past when it comes to health and well-being. And I know firsthand from doing this for the last 7 years or so, the difference it makes when we look after our employees holistically and not just treat them as numbers. It has so many benefits. So that's why.
Yeah. And there are so many things already in what you said. I love the idea of the difference between looking at health as a kind of superficial layer and like nearly cosmetic level, and then looking at health from a really deep, holistic way. And I think we're completely in line with what you say at Breath at Work, because we see breathwork the same way. It's not something that you do superficially to just to feel better in the moment. It's something that you want to use to transform your life deeply. What I would like to know is what you identified according to your experience of 7 years working at CHR. What are the main issues in the corporate world at the moment?
There are so many. I think we like to complicate things as humans, and sometimes we kind of look at all these different things of moving parts, but ultimately what I'm noticing, and from my own experience as well, is stress is a huge one. When we have stressed employees, it knocks us out of balance. It means we're not thinking straight. It means our body hasn't got time to heal, to process stuff. It means that people are like that at one another because they are in the emotional part of their brain rather than the rational part of their brain. And we are living in a society, especially in the Western world, where we are being bombarded with information, whether it's emails, text messages, phone calls, Slack messages, requirements. We've got to be an amazing performer in work. We've got to be amazing person outside of work. We've got to have an excellent morning routine. We've got to eat perfectly. There's just so many expectations on people in society nowadays. And people are feeling overwhelmed, people are feeling stressed. And if you can teach people to understand how their minds work and understand how their perception then creates their reality, that then creates their emotional state, and teach people how stress and how addictive it is, and then give them the tools like breath work to be able to regulate themselves and bring themselves back into balance where they notice they're in that fight or flight freeze response, that is when the magic happens. And that is when you start creating work environments and work cultures where people take responsibility for their emotions rather than blaming everyone else. It's where I'm seeing real exciting change happen. So for me, stress is a massive factor. And we're seeing it in all aspects of life. When people are stressed, it creates disease. And our health systems are massively under threat. People are getting sicker and iller, younger. And I do worry that if we don't start tackling these problems now, we're going to come to a point in the workforce where everyone's going to be sick. Everyone's going to have some sort of issue. Everyone's going to have different diseases. And that's quite a big statement, but I can kind of see it playing out. We've already got to make lots of reasonable adjustments of different bits, different people, rightly so. But I worry that we're going to come to a point in time where everyone's unwell because of this chronic stress we're putting on ourselves.
Yeah. Celine, you've got experience with executive managers. You find it's the same, I guess.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I coach a lot of people in the corporate world, and I've worked in learning development for 2 decades. So I've seen, everything you've spoken about. Yes, I've seen it, and I see it every day. I actually recently was saying to someone that I think in the last 18 months, everyone I have coached is struggling with some level of stress, and with a fairly high level of stress, not just, I'm feeling a little bit stressed. And many people, in their coaching have used coaching to try and make progress on that, and to try and find answers and solutions for themselves and try and bring back some balance. Which was actually a question then, Yasmin, I wanted to ask you, because, stress isn't new, right? I mean, there has been maybe a peak since COVID. We got very stressed and then we've sort of stayed there, but we know stress isn't new. And I'm really curious, Yasmin, from your point of view and from your experience, what has not happened? I mean, something hasn't happened, and there's either been like companies and organizations haven't reacted. That's one possibility, but I know that some companies and organizations have put things in place. And so I think what we need to realize is it clearly hasn't worked. And so what do you think has happened? Is it just like sheer ignorance? We just denied it, we just pushed it back, or have the solutions we've tried just not worked? And if so, why haven't they worked?
I think,
what are your thoughts?
There's a multi-layered thing going on here. And from my point of view, this is my personal opinion, people still think well-being is fluffy. They think it's the nice stuff. They think, right, let's give someone some bean baths to sit on. Let's bring in a snooker table. Let's bring in some fruit. And they think, right, we've tackled our well-being issue. That's just too high level. You're not getting in. You're not getting into the nitty-gritty. And there are still a lot of companies tackling well-being from that very superficial point of view. Another layer, which I'm very passionate about from my own journey and from coaching and working with people and working with business owners and working with companies in terms of trainer events around stress, is stress is very addictive. And it can be really hard, one, to first of all acknowledge that subconsciously we quite like the cortisol kick that the stress gives us. We will seek it out. A layer on top of that, just to make it even more harder and complex for humans, is when I am stressed, I will give off certain pheromones in my sweat, which traditionally, if we think back to the olden days when we were hunter-gatherers, we would need those we need our sweat to inform our tribe that if something stressful's happening, so I need your autonomic nervous system to kick off your stress response because we're going to have to get active in a minute. We need to get out of this survival, whatever situation that we're in. That still happens. So when someone is stressed in the workplace, unconsciously, we are going to be triggering one another. We're going to be sharing that stress. Add on a layer of, do you know what, it's quite addictive, that cortisol release, the way our brains work, we're constantly seeking out threats in terms of, right, am I safe? And in the olden days, the threat would be, oh, there's something chasing us, we need to run. We would see the threats, our body would get active, we'd pump the blood where it needs to go, we'd get out of it. Today, the threats are emails, it's our boss phoning us, it's projects, it's deadlines, it's bam, 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 bam. And we're not giving ourselves time and space to deactivate that system.
Yeah. And I think that's key. That's because now the problem is that it's become chronic.
Yeah.
And if it's only something that we can get in and out, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
That's the way we are meant to work.
Yeah.
But because of all this constant stimulation, it has become chronic. Yeah.
And stress is a tool. Stress is good for us. It gets us motivated. It's what gets the job done. But we're not taught the basics in terms of, one, recognizing when you're in that state of stress, and two, when you recognize it, how do I get out of it? Like, how do I calm my nervous system down? How do I tell myself this email is not life-threatening most of the time? It's not life-threatening. It's my perception of this email that needs to change.
And I think we've come to realization, which I think for a long time we thought, of course, the mind was strong enough to make us make the right decisions. I think what we've really come to is the mind can't do that. The mind has its limitations as well, the conscious mind. And sometimes it just can't just switch off. It can't just say, this is not rational. The email's not rational. I shouldn't get worried about it. We've all tried that. We all said, it doesn't matter. Let me just say it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. In the brain, there's a whole embodied experience happening. And I think, which is kind of where we go, I think, with kind of bringing the conversation towards breathwork. And Yasmin, I guess my understanding is that you've had an experience of breathwork, you've practiced it, or you're practicing it. And I think, would love to know sort of what's the opportunity here with breathwork? What do you think breathwork could bring into organization? Teaching breathwork, and I don't mean, of course, just doing breathwork sessions and classes, but actually really teaching breathwork and sort of giving people these tools, understanding how the breath operates and how it can change the nervous system.
I in my own practice, in terms of my well-being journey, breathwork for me has been a key tool that I've used over many years now, something that I do every single morning just to keep myself topped up and looked after. And also, I've worked with Veronique to come and see some of my clients, and she's taught some of my clients some breathwork techniques. So I can see it from both angles, my personal experience, but also from a client's point of view. And I was talking to one of the employees of a client who came to Veronique's last breathwork session. And we had a session yesterday, actually, just a little catch up, find out what's going on in their world. And what I love is she was telling me a story of something that happened to her, something that triggered her in the workplace, something that set her nervous system up. She's now using this language. We've kind of taught her the basics. And she said to me, do you know what I did? I caught myself. I realized that I was running a pattern. I realized that I was in an emotional response. And I remembered, hang on a minute, I've got a tool here. And I came back to my breath. And they did a very simple box breathing technique just to center themselves, just to give themselves something to focus on. And they said it was amazing. Like, one, I'm so proud of myself for catching myself. Two, I'm proud of myself for then actively doing something about it and not just sitting in that emotion and enjoying it. This is all their own words. And then I moved through it, and suddenly I looked back at myself a few moments later and went, well, okay, I don't feel the same anymore. I'm more rational about this. And then they were able to carry on with the day and not sit in that emotion. And the best thing was, they said to me, if this was me a couple of years ago in my previous job, I would have felt like this for weeks. I would have had that emotional reaction. I was sat in it. I would have gone back over it in my head. It would have impacted my home life. It lasted a couple of minutes because they were able to catch themselves and then do something about it. And they said, like, this is life-changing. And it's really simple. Like, breath work is something that we can all easily access. We can do it in the moment. And once you've taught someone the technique, they're not reliant on anyone else. They're not reliant on having to go see a counselor, a coach, or a personal trainer, or this is we're empowering them with their own tools and techniques. And that's what it's about for me anyway.
Oh, it's so nice to hear that feedback. And I think really for me, that's what is so empowering about breathwork is that, you know, it's like learning to drive a car. You need to practice parking, you need to repeat, okay, I need to look at this mirror and that mirror, and I need to check that and that. And then after a while, you don't need to think about it. You just do it. You just do it because you feel that that's how you are keeping safe. And it's the same with breath work. Once you have learned, once you have understood, once you have experience in your body, the benefits of modulating your breath or regulating your breath, then you just do it naturally. And that is transformative. Yeah, definitely. Celine, did you want to ask another question?
I think well, I guess I'm curious now. I mean, it seems, you know, we're all bought into breathwork. So I think it's like, you know, we could probably go on for hours about why breathwork is amazing and the effects we've seen on ourselves and the people we've worked with. I guess the real question is, you know, how do we get it out there? Because, you know, you and I, Veronique, we're working at this and we're trying to get the word out. We do feel a bit like pioneers in the sense we know breathwork's been around forever, but there aren't that many people bringing it into the workplace yet. And so I guess you being on the sort of the other side and consulting with organizations and seeing what they're ready for. Yeah, well, how do we approach this? How do we get the word about breathwork out there? It seems so practical, so easy to sort of learn. It's, you know, it's obvious that it gives results and very quickly. How do we do that? Yasmin, tell us.
Well, first of all, I need a magic wand, so then I can literally change the world like this. That's a really good question. Everyone's different and every company is on a different journey. And I've come to realize over the years that I have to meet the different organizations and the different leaders at where they are. And some people are further down this journey and some people are just starting this journey of realizing that there are other ways to manage their people and other ways to support them. So it's a kind of about being flexible to different organizations and what they need. But then at the same time, knowing that it's a trickle effect. So I know that one person I just spoke about, that example, I know they're going to be going around and telling their friend, their family. They tell me all the time, like, I've told people that this is changing my life. So those conversations are going to make a difference. And I just think it's about making sure that we are having conversations like this, making sure that we are practicing what we preach, and then making sure we're allowing this to unfold as it should. And our times are changing. They really are. Not at the speed that I want it to, because I want everything to happen now, because I'm the most impatient person you'll ever meet in your life. But times are changing. I just think it's about getting it out there. I'm doing a talk tomorrow actually for the HR body in Wales, and I've just decided now I will add a breathwork session on the talk to show people what they're missing out on.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I think, I mean, I would add something for things to change is also to say that, you know, it's not normal to be stressed at work. It doesn't have to be that, you know, that you, because I know so many people who take it for granted that if they're working in a company, that stress is part of the deal, you know, and that's why you need a holiday, and that's why you're looking forward to being retired. It's normal, but it doesn't have to be, or it doesn't have to affect us as much as as it's apparent. And the fact that, you know, the World Health Organization mentioning that stress was an epidemic, and the cost to the American economy was $300 billion a year, the cost of stress. I mean,
Wow.
why do we accept that? And the next epidemics is burnout, because we haven't stopped, we haven't learned how to deal with stress, and the next step is burnout. I mean, we have to accept that this is not normal. You know, it shouldn't be. We have the tools to change that.
Yeah, there's some studies coming out right now that are actually showing that the younger generation are seeing burnout as sort of a step towards success, which I put it up on every time I have an opportunity to show it. I think it was an Asana workplace sort of study that came out, and I saw we're normalizing burnout. If we normalize burnout, I think I go back to what you were saying earlier, Yasmin, about we're normalizing high stress and this adrenalized state to be in, and we're making burnout like a mark of success. You succeeded when you burnt out. You've gone to the edge. You couldn't go any further. And I'm like, that is very dangerous. And then and with that, I think we're all into the studies. We're looking at them, and I've got young children, and I'm very concerned by the younger generation coming through that their mental health is obviously way worse than even the average mental health of people of our age. And they're completely put off the workplace. They're completely put off what they're seeing. And I think that's also very concerning. And so if anything, I think it's for organizations to realize, yes, there's something to do for people now. But if you don't do that for the people now, you won't have anybody to hire. You're going to have massive hiring problems in a few months' time or in a few years, because there's a bunch of young people out there that just do not want to enter the workforce. And some can't enter the workforce because of
we're kind of
what comes up for you?
We're kind of seeing that play out at the moment, because when COVID happened, a lot of people went, hang on a minute, let me reevaluate my life. People realized that they could work from home and have a bit more flexibility. Recruitment at the moment, in the sectors that I'm working with, is really hard, and I know a lot of other HR consultants are struggling to hire. So we're seeing that play out at the moment. And you're right, the younger generation, I see it two ways. They know what they want, and they're not afraid to demand more from their employers, and that's good. That's great. But there are going to be some employers that scares them, and they're either going to have to buck up their ideas, or I don't think they're going to survive in the new world, a new way. But you're absolutely right in terms of stress. People see it almost as a badge of honor. People used to talk about presenteeism, and I think nowadays that if you are seen to be busy and stressed, you are successful. And that's a huge cultural shift. That's a whole societal norm that we're going to have to, between the three of us, change. I'm sure we can do it.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yay!
Great. Well, thank you so much, Yas, for talking to us today. I think what we'll do next is we'll share our details at the end of this discussion, and you can contact us if you want to work with us, whether you want to work with Breathwork or if you want to work with Heathly HR. Contact us, and let's try and just make it happen. Just transform the world, transform the workplace first. Yeah. Shall we do that?
Start with a conversation. Yeah, change the world and start with a conversation. Open to any conversation about this topic. I think we're all very open to explore the possibilities out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.